All right. I guess we're on. Hola, guys. ¿Qué pasó? How's everyone doing? This is Hala Pablo. Long time no see. Uh, Now that the elections are over and Trump won, we see that the pump that was quite obvious. This is what was going to happen with crypto, right? If Trump prevailed in the elections, which he did decisively. So I think that there is a lot of positive sentiment with the markets, and that's being reflected not only in crypto but in everything else for now. However, I do think that this bullish sentiment will not be sustained. So I just want to get that out right now. Okay, I'm excited like everyone else for the prospects of crypto. No one's more excited than I am about crypto and about the media touting Trump as the next the first Bitcoin president. I think I read a headline the other day saying that, and I'm like, oh gosh, okay, yeah, crypto's going to dump pretty soon because you sell the news, right? So, but I wouldn't sell it just yet. I think we've got some more upward action on the books before the big retracement we've all been waiting for. And when I say big retracement, I don't think we're going to go as deeply as I was saying a few months ago. I've gotten to look at it a little more now, and just with the Trump victory and all that, I do think we're going to retrace. We pretty much have to retrace from from that from the rallies that we've had all last year, from when we bottomed out way back down here. Let's see. We still haven't taken profit. Market makers still have not taken profit from all of these unanswered gains here that we see on this top chart. Kind of, I've got this on the daily here, all the way up to where we had this buying climax. I guess this was back in March of this year, where we had the buying climax and then the automatic rally, which is incidentally where I drew this trading range here, and I forecasted the Fibonacci extensions for as high as I think we'll go before we see any considerable retracements. But going back to what I was saying, all of these gains are unanswered for. And so whenever you see a lot of gains like that, in this case, I think it was over 1,000%. Let me see if I can measure this. I have it measured on another chart, but I don't want to pull it up right now. Let's just see just roughly what it is. Oh, it's not 1,000. I was thinking of something else. I was thinking of a previous pump. That's 374% thereabouts. After a 374% rally or pump, those who bought down here, the market makers who accumulated down here, are going to want to sell, unload their bags eventually, and profit from, because that's a lot of profit, right? 375% for many who didn't sell, because you didn't see any noticeable or substantial sell-offs on the journey up to this present consolidation range that we just broke. So not like we saw here, and then we had another pump, and then here. And so from here, we've kind of flatlined. It was an accumulation range, and then from there they brought it up. But all of these gains haven't been answered for, and so eventually these gains will be answered. Now, I don't think we're gonna now. In my last videos, I was saying that when the retracement does come, we're going to come back and mitigate these lows here, kind of like how they did on this one, on this retracement, how it came back and mitigated these lows here. I don't think we're going back that far this time, guys. We may, and it's good to be prepared for that, but I think we when we do retrace, we're gonna come back most likely to mitigate this PSY area or this reaccumulation range here that we saw back in December of 23. That would bring it around 40,000 in the 40s. More realistic, I think, what we could pretty much bank on is Bitcoin retracing back to 50,000. Okay, so that would be this area here. So usually when you have a top on these Wyckoff tops, where they distribute after these UTADs, you see these series of UTADs. Usually there's this highest thrust, this last thrust, which I call the horns of the devil. Usually it's the last horn of the devil, where it's this 5 wave that goes up. Sometimes they're extended 5 waves at the end of an Elliott wave impulse. That's the last FOMO wave, and market makers or smart money or informed interest have already sold off, or they're selling their positions into this last pump, and then they bring the floor out. Strong hands unload their positions. Weak hands are the only ones holding positions, and since they're weak hands, they can't keep the currency or the asset or whatever it is, in this case Bitcoin, afloat, and so it falls. But the question is, how high are they going to go this time? Well, just depending on how strong the FOMO is, and I think FOMO is going to be very, very strong this time around, just because of the Trump victory and him being pro Bitcoin, and the presence of Elon Musk and the meme coins and all that. All this is going to fuel positive crypto sentiment, and it could quite possibly bring Bitcoin all the way up to, from where we are now, where we more than mitigated the buying climax at 74,000, and we basically touched the 1.272 Fibonacci extension. Now again, I'm drawing the the extension numbers from the buying climax here and the automatic rally area here, where we have this common like support ground area that we had like several bounces on. Now, of course, we've gone below this. We've had deep springs and signs of weakness here and here, but on this range, this is looking more and more, I'm almost positive, is a top. This whole range here is a top, even though we're going up, because of the size of the spread or the waves. Normally, if in accumulation ranges, you're going to see the waves, and I've talked about this in other videos, you're going to see supply and demand begin to tighten and constrict, and that's because supply is getting absorbed. So you don't have these like series of lower lows like you see here, these drastic series of lower lows where we see predominance. Even in the vertical bar volume, we have a noticeable predominance of supply. You don't see that. Usually you see a tapering off. You see a gradual diminishment of both supply and demand as supply is absorbed. And then up in the price action, you see a tightening or a consolidation of the candles in preparation. Usually it's a tapering off of some kind of triangular pattern, especially towards the end of the range. But here you just see these waves expanding, and this is creating liquidity, because they're planning on pumping it right at the end, just like we saw at these UTADs here. See, I don't want you guys to be ignorant of this stuff. And so this is all just to generate liquidity, because they've already set their targets down here. They already have their buy orders placed down here, pre-designated buy orders down here, and I'm sure they already have their pre-designated buy orders set somewhere around here. And they're using the momentum in the news, they're using the positive sentiment in the news to fuel the FOMO dynamic, to get retail and other uninformed or weak-handed interests, retail interests, to go ahead and jump in, especially if they break 76. Now, how far are they going to go? Well, like for me, I'm only going to take this probably up to the 1618. That's usually a safe area. That's a safe extension Of course, we can go beyond the 618, like I was talking to my group yesterday. We could certainly go beyond that and into the mid 80s and even into the 90s before they before the floor falls out. But a safe area for me is probably going to be around 80. I think if Bitcoin gets into the 80s, I'm definitely going to start taking profit and liquidating my some of my positions in it. I don't sell Bitcoin wholesale, but I do get out if I'm swinging this, and I know that we are going back down. We have to go back down to generate liquidity for this. Well, we have to sell up here to generate liquidity down here. So it's just a matter of time. It's just a question of when. And I don't want to be one of those caught underwater up here when the floor does fall out. I think we will go back up pretty quickly, just because of who's going to be in the White House for 2025. But nonetheless, I'd like to make some profit off some of my sales, some of my Bitcoin liquidation up here to buy more copiously down in the 50s, between the 50s and 40s, and I'll start juicing it down around here when we do fall. So that's when I'll be placing my buy orders where I believe smart money is placing theirs. So and then if you go down here on this chart, I have Bitcoin on the 1 hour, and this is just basically like a blow up of this ascending channel here. I used to think that this was a rising wedge, and it still technically is a rising wedge, but if you look at it more forensically, it's more of like a channel up here. But I do believe the end is going to be bearish at the end of this. But if you trace the Elliott waves, you can see that here. Let me see if I can get rid of some of this. And yeah, see it creating these double bottoms here. Here's one double bottom, and then we just got through with another double bottom, and then we've come up to this area here where, notice that this distribution area right here was below the macro trend resistance line, or in this case we'll call this the micro trend, I guess, because we're on the 1 hour. So this area here is basically this area here coming out of this double bottom. We have the Adam and the Eve on the micro. But all of this here that we're in, this whole leg right here, is an Eve pattern on a double bottom on the macro. And so we're going to be entering into this area here on the macro, and then from here we're going to fall back down into this channel, but not before some like a little bit of a FOMO drive, kind of like we saw here, but in this case, or here. But in this case, I think it's going to be way more pronounced just because of the dynamic of the Trump victory. But then we will fall back into this channel. Even if we're able to establish and we're able to flip this micro trend resistance to micro trend support, I still think we may go up for another, I don't know, maybe a little bit past the 1618. Remember we talked about that up here, the 1618 fib extension. That could bring us up to the 80s or 90s, but then I think it's just it's inevitable. We're gonna fall back down in here. This will be a proper UTAD and come back into the channel, and just kind of like it fell here after this micro double bottom. So anyway, I'm keeping an eye on it, and so should you. If you got anything out of this video, consider subscribing. If it hopefully whenever Bitcoin does crash after all the FOMO hype, who knows when that'll be? It could be in January, whenever. It could be before then. It could be after then. But when we fall back into the 40s and 40s or 50s, and hopefully if you haven't subscribed, then you can come back and see this video and see that you are all forewarned. And maybe hopefully you'll subscribe then. So in any case, be safe and leave a comment. Like this video if you got anything out of it. We'll talk to you guys soon. And for those of you who voted for Trump, congratulations. Let's get this, let's get this party going. All right, guys. We'll talk to you real soon. Have a great day. Bye bye.